All right, so finally we'll hit the conversions. Um, so conversions are relationships between standards. That's something that you should be fairly comfortable with. We already talked about that between the L and the span, for example. The L was this length, the length between forefinger and elbow. And this was a relative unit. This was something that was based on you. This is something you did. The span was if you put a head here, you put some shoulders there, then you have two bits of arm and a hand, and you have two bits of arm and a hand. And so that distance between your forefingers, or the tips of your fingers, is one span. So if you got to measure in spans, you can always convert it to L's and vice versa, just by saying one span is equal to 5 L's. Okay, and that's not too hard, and we did an example with that. That's pretty reasonable. What we'd like to do now is talk a little bit more about that in terms of something that's a little more complicated, not a lot more complicated, but a little more complicated. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to basically draw a square meter and show what the conversion is between this meter, the square meter, and a square foot. Right? Very important if you ever, end up renting an apartment in London or something like that. So that's your square meter. So how do we do our conversion to square feet, right? So we want 1 meter squared equal to some number of square feet. Square feet just means feet squared. How do we do that? Well, we want to count the number of squares. And we know that this is about 3.1 feet on each side. So I'm just going to rough this in. And so then we'll put one more here, one more past, and we'll draw our little box. So this big red box is now some number of square feet, 16 square feet. So if we look at this, put it together, we can see that 1 square meter is somewhere between 9 square feet and 16 square feet, right? 9 plus 7 is 16. So it's somewhere in there, and basically you find that out by filling out these. So we get rid of this guy and add it in here, get rid of this guy, add it in here. Maybe we've got this full one here, get rid of this guy. Actually, I think probably all three of those would fill in this one. Get rid of this guy, fill it up a little bit. This guy, fill it up a little bit more, so it doesn't quite get there. So that's what we're going to do, is we're going to try to fill up this blue area and figure out exactly how many square feet it is, 1 meter. So that's a better looking grid. So what we're going to do is we're going to say 1 meter squared is equal to how many square feet? Well, we don't know that yet. In fact, let's pretend I don't know what feet is. Usually I don't remember feet to meters. I remember that there's 2.54 centimeters in 1 inch. So let's just do that sort of conversion, right? We have 2.5 centimeters in square inch, so I want to figure out centimeters per meter. Centimeters are 100 centimeters per meter. Okay, so that's the conversion factor for centimeters to meters. But I've got meters squared here. I've got 2 meters that I have to cancel, so I have to square this whole thing. Does that make sense? I have to square that whole thing, so I have 1 meter squared. If I square this whole thing, I have 100, 100 centimeters squared in the numerator and 1 meter squared in the denominator. Those things cancel, so I have 100 centimeters squared. 100 times 100 is 10,000 centimeters squared. So I've gotten to this 10,000 centimeters squared, which will then let me use this conversion factor here. Right? This isn't quite enough. Just because I get this into inches doesn't mean I've gotten to feet, right? So we still have a little more to do, but let's get to the point where we get to feet, right? Or let's get to inches and then we'll do inches to feet. All right, so let's do this. So we want to convert 10,000 square centimeters into inches. So I said that 1 inch is equal to 2.54 centimeters, or maybe 2.54 centimeters is equal to 1 inch. Same thing. I want to cancel out the centimeters. So we have on the bottom 2.54 centimeters. Over in the top we have 1 inch. Again, we look down here. We have 1 centimeter here and we have 2 centimeters here. We have to square that conversion factor. Again, we have to square that conversion factor. This is something that people have a lot of problems with. All right. So remember to square that conversion factor. And then we go on and we say, okay, well, I have 10,000 centimeters squared over 2.54 centimeters, quantity squared, times 1 square inch. Okay, so then I do this. This is sort of calculator work, so I'll type that into my calculator because I can't do 100 divided by 2.54, let alone 10,000 divided by whatever 2.54 squared is. That gives me 1,550 square inches. Square inch, right? Square inches equals inches squared. Same thing. Okay, so we've got that. We're almost there because I know that 1 foot has 12 inches, right? 1 foot has 12 inches, we're good with that. So we want to do that conversion now. We do the same thing. We want to cancel out the inches. We put 12 inches in the denominator and 1 foot in the numerator. Again, we have square inches here and just regular inches there, so we have to square that conversion factor, right? We have to get rid of all of my inches. I don't want any inches left. Each time I use this conversion factor, I get rid of the inches once. If I want to use it twice, I have to square it. Or I can multiply it by this conversion factor twice, which is squaring it. But it's a little bit different in your calculator. Gives you the same answer, but it takes longer. So that's, 1550 square inches over 144 inches squared times 1 square foot, right? So now I just have to divide. I've got plenty of room. So that division is pretty small, 10.76 maybe, square feet. All right, so that conversion factor between square meters and square feet is somewhere around 10, right? Which makes sense because we said that this was about 3.1 feet per meter. Although that's just an estimate, that's not exact, right? This down here is exact. I mean, this is literally exact. So in the United States, the inch is defined in terms of the centimeter, in terms of the meter. So we define the inch as exactly 2.54 centimeters. That's what it is. That's what's always going to be. So this is an exact number. So let's go with that. 3.1, that's just approximate. but the 2.54, that is exact. So that is sort of part of the reason why we go through this whole rigmarole. So what did we see there? Well, what we did is we were just looking at how to take this blue square and chop it up into this region. So let me see, do I have any blue ink? Yeah, so I have blue ink here. So we can see just from the way we put this together that 1 square meter is more than 9 square feet. But we hard to get a better idea just by looking at this mesh. So what we do instead is we've done this conversion. And every time we've done a conversion in this thing, what we've done is we said we've got a square meter. We have to convert both of those meters, so we have to square the conversion factor. Remember, the conversion factor's whole point is to cancel things out, so we'll have a conversion factor like 1 meter is equal to 100 centimeters. The thing we're trying to cancel out goes in the opposite, or I guess we have the meters is what we're trying to cancel out, goes in the denominator. If what we want to cancel out is in the numerator, it would go in the numerator if what we wanted to cancel out was in the denominator. And then the other thing goes in the other spot. That's all there is to it. And so we did that, and we did several conversions of the same type with the same square, because square feet has the same dimensions as any other area measure. And we found that we had 10.76 square feet. So that means we have, let's say this, how close is that color? Not that close. Can I get a... I don't see a different brush size, do I? No. Okay, so we'll just stick with that. So we fill this guy out. And we do fill out 3/4 of this guy. And so mathematically, that's what we've done, is we've just erased more or less the stuff in these boxes. Put them into that box over there so that we could figure out mathematically rather than visually exactly how many square meters there were, or square feet there were in a square meter. And we found out it was a 10.76, so a little more than 10 3/4. And so we end up with this as our conversion. Okay. But again, we had to do double conversions. Okay, so hopefully that can give you some sense of why we're doing these conversion things, or how we're doing these conversion things, and hopefully by listening to this you will not make the error of only trying to convert one of these once. Again, in this class, that is going to be a major problem on the next test, and possibly on some of the homework leading up to it. I want you to be very, very sure that you don't do that, okay? Because, again, that's an issue that we always have. All right. Okay, well, thank you very much for listening to this, and I will see you next time for basic motion.